Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's my immense pleasure to welcome you and, in particular, our special guests, Professor Rasha Salti and Professor Dr. Omar Kholeif, here in the auditorium of the Hall of Contemporary Art at Deichtorhallen. Rasha Salti was one of the curators of the very successful 8th Triennial of Photography here in Hamburg last summer, including the amazing exhibition Currency, Photography Behind Capture in our institution. Yeah, and Omar Kholeif is, as you all know, the curator of our current exhibition In the Heart of Another Country, based on the very renowned Sharjah Art Foundation collections with all these unbelievable artworks from all corners of the globe and from so many decades. And it was actually a dream of us to initiate a conversation between these two outstanding, brilliant curators, writers, thinkers who belong to the most prolific figures of their generation. And a fascinating thing of their curatorial praxis is, as I think, that it includes a lot of reflection on how art can be defined through language, through geography, and through ethnicity. So, telling stories through exhibitions as part of a global history might be the common ground of your illustrated talk tonight, entitled The Myth of Arab Art, The Beginning. What's behind this title? I have no idea. I'm very curious about what you're going to tell us about this. You have to decode it. Let me briefly introduce our two prominent guests. Rasha Salti, Professor Rasha Salti, is an artist whose work manifests through exhibitions, screenplays, lyric, short story, and significantly through encounters with cinema. Her projects have come to life at MACBA, Barcelona, MoMA, New York, or Sursock Museum, Beirut, to name but a few examples. She is a fine art professor at numerous higher education institutes and is a commissioning editor for ArteFrance. And she was one of the forces responsible for bringing noted filmmaker Jean-Luc Godard's last two projects to life. Professor Dr. Omar Kholeif currently serves as Director of Collections and Senior Curator at Sharjah Art Foundation in the United Arab Emirates. Over the last 2 decades, Kholeif has served in museum leaderships positions in Liverpool, Manchester, London, Chicago, Cairo, and Sharjah. Collectively, Kholeif have curated more than 70 exhibitions of visual art and published more than 40 books of contemporary visual culture. This spring, Kholeif's memoir of growing up online, Internet Art from the Birth of the Web to the Rise of NFTs, will be published. Please give a very warm welcome to our guests. And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you for the invitation. And thank you for the introductions, Dirk. I wear many hats. So one is the hat of a curator, another is the hat of somebody who's involved in film production, which means I produce films, but also I work as a script doctor. A script doctor is somebody, is an advisor, an expert of sorts, who is invited by an aspiring filmmaker who has a project and who needs advice, who needs to bounce ideas off someone to see if the film has any chance of being made, of being interesting, of being relevant. What you don't know about Omar is, I mean, I maybe should say this about our encounter. Omar is one of the very, very few people in the art world who has allowed me to do crazy shit, crazy stuff. And some of it is in print, and some of it is at dinner parties, But this freedom that he gives me is a gift. And tonight, I will reciprocate this freedom. What you don't know about him is that he studied film and he is working on a film. And tonight I will be the script doctor and he's the anxious, aspiring, ambitious filmmaker who's going to make a film about a curator who has made exhibitions, who originates somewhere from the so-called Arab world, and who travels the world with this expertise, this gaze. This curator has, of course, engaged with art all over the world, but this somehow origin is kind of a shadow that follows him. So Omar has written a script. He actually has a few scenes that he's written. And so tonight is a lecture performance more exciting than Walid Raad's.
Walid Raad, has he done a lecture performance ever recently? I think we will. That's finished. That's finished.
Yes. So Omar, maybe if you can just give the log line that you sent me earlier.
Sure.
Just because we are supposed to start with a log line, and then I would like you to read some of the scenes that you've written.
Sure.
And we can fight in public.
Okay, so first I'm going to just need these glasses. Actually, they don't help me see. They're just for the persona. They never help me see. So I'm actually going to use the real ones now. And this is do you like this? It matches your. It's by Delia James. This is everything that I use is special. You see, the funds from this go to charity, actually. So anyway, yes, you want me to give the log line.
It's what happens usually at pitches.
And
I want to tell you that I wore my cosmonaut suit for you.
But a log line is usually, makeup here. But a log line is usually, they also call it the elevator pitch, don't they?
It's the elevator pitch. It's when you're caught with a producer in an elevator and you have 2 minutes to get their attention.
But you have to kind of look super suave, don't you, to be able to capture the attention of the...
It's also your inner beauty that...
I don't believe that. Anyway, you want to try some of Dr. O's Bon Parfum? What do you think? It has lavender, coriander.
It's beautiful.
So in an elevator pitch, would that distract the commissioning editor?
I think it's important for our audience.
Oh, no. What I mean is that if I was pitching to you for money...
To distract me?
Yeah, would this endear me to you, for you to give me money to make my film?
It's part of the seduction act, for sure.
Okay, good to know. Good to know that I'm not wasting my time here. No, it's a secret. Please. Okay, so the log line of the film that I've been making actually for the last year, and the log line should be a sentence, so let me remember. A retired filmmaker turned visual art curator finds out that they have a year left to live. They return to art in search of questions. In search of meaning. Is that okay?
It's great.
Do you like it?
I mean, it's definitely dramatic.
Okay, good. And it's a documentary, actually. Is that okay?
It's documentary.
And how long do you think documentary can be? 7 hours, 8 hours? How long can...
It can be 52 minutes.
But like the Decalogue, 11 hours?
It can be 3 times, it can be a series.
Okay, so
we have to keep people interested.
So would you like me, I'm very, very dry. But would you like me to begin? Ooh, a scene.
Yes, please.
Okay, so the scenes, I should tell you, are in no specific chronological order, but they are coming from a position of feeling. And they're situated, we begin, voila, here.
Do you want the lights dimmed or it's okay?
Oh, for this bit, is it okay to keep it as it is?
Yeah.
But later, we might want black, which is more dark, but not now. I mean, is that okay? So you have the script, I've given you my pages. Yes. Scene 1.
Entrance of exhibition
Interior.
hall. Interior, sorry. We are inside an exhibition hall of contemporary art, and outside is the evening, and Dr. O, our protagonist, is giving an exhibition tour. He is slouchy, anxious, and he's attempting to project their voice through feeling, but the feeling is stifled.
So gesturing of lots of hand gestures. These two arches, the artist's largest configurations, are gleaned from mythology. Here they anchor a memory of a place, a seat in Marine County called Mount Tam. This seat, Mount Tam, served as a site for the late artist and poet Ital Adnan, one that offered her tremendous joy, perhaps even relief, when she could no longer travel by plane. These overlook a map of another imagined site, a conjuring of the city of Beirut in Lebanon, where Adnan was born in 1925. Except here, her hometown is liberated from the divisive politic of sectarian religious something. It is an affectionate scene of love and kinship that I have created here. Simone Fattal, Etel's wife and life partner, a venerable artist and Adnan's greatest of collaborators, stands here anchoring Etel, who has just left this world. Someone, an audience member, gestures as if wiping away a tear. Are you going to grunt?
You mean her friend?
Excuse me?
You meant to say this woman, she was her friend?
Oh, no, her wife.
You mean her sister?
Her lover, her wife.
Oh, her best friend?
No, her wife.
You mean her publisher?
No, her muse.
You mean her graphic designer?
The person she shared a bed with.
What do you mean?
Perhaps I don't mean to mean anything. We pull out to reveal the exhibition hall, and then the voiceover. Now we're inside my head, or the character's head. Little did I think that two women sharing a life, for 50 years no less, would seem such a discomforting proposition. But for the politeness, for the secrecy of being European, it seemed, has come to mean something else altogether. Did you like my scene?
Is it at the beginning of the film you imagine it? Is it it's not the opening scene, is it the opening scene? It's
No, I'm very confused, you see, because it's the beginning of an exhibition, but the point I'm trying to make is that individuals often perceive that two women, two very beautiful women, intelligent women, couldn't have lived as lovers, partners, and collaborators for all this time and are trying to always be polite on our behalf. like as if to be respectful of some imagined religious formal boundary that doesn't exist really in this context. And I think it's something I want to make clear in the script, that this tension. But I'm not sure where is it structured nicely at least?
I mean, I think what it hints at is misperceptions, misconceptions of modern art made by women in Lebanon in the 1960s and the 70s, specifically because the word queer is not there. You just present them as a couple, and so this I'm sure has come up in the encounter with otherness, with other art histories, and how, as curators, how this distinction is mediated. I like the setup. I wonder if you're going to build on it, where you're going to go with it.
Is it too short a scene?
It feels like a little bit short.
Okay. Well, the next scene is the longest scene. Well, second longest scene. Should we go there, or do you want to reprimand me for beginning in the wrong place?
Let's not start with too much negative energy.
All right, okay.
Let's go to the second scene.
طيب ماشي. Okay. Oh, it's not playing out of the... 1 second. 1 second. So, is this bad that... Would I have lost the producer's attention at this point? If my speaker is, where are we right now?
Well, it's been a long time now since I've seen you smile. And
I'm going to read the headings if you don't mind. Interior Hall of Contemporary Art, Day. Dr. O stares at a painting of ambushed green forms protruding. It is a painting called Ma'ameltain by Huguette Galland from 1970. Cut to exterior, Jemaise, Beirut, street, day. Street noises, cars honking, off screen. Summer 2010. The electricity has gone off in the hostel. Within minutes, my shirt and before I know it, my blazer are already stained with the residue of sweat. I am on my way to meet a gallery dealer to learn more about Huguette Galland, a woman, the only daughter of the first Lebanese president, whose sensuous forms seemed to exist if only to devour me.
Can someone explain to this douchebag that you can't do a 15-year flashback in a documentary?
Really? Interior sound studio. Fake cars, fake sounds, fake everything all around. This is Beirut circa whenever, wherever you would like it to be. How much will this cost us? $1 million? In the soundstage? Cut to. Interior Huguette Galland Studio, Venice, California, day. Dr. O is kneeling, squatting. Looks like they're about to do a poo withholding gas, sandwiched amongst white drawers and shelving units, attempting to decipher erotic musings from Kalan's small notebooks. They're really small, maybe half the size. They hold a magnifying glass which seems to do little but frustrate, but they think it adds an air of sophistication, of the Inspector Clouseau to them. The Pink Panther had taken on new meaning for them after they had encountered clips from the film reconstituted in Emily Jesser's mesmerizing installation, Material for a Film. Rick Flatter, Malado Baldwin, Brigitte Galland, Lecon, kindly pulling out vestiges of a time that remains unaltered. Luminous color, holes come in and out of focus. Would you read the next part?
Interior. An apartment on the Corniche in Beirut. Bedroom. Evening.
Huguette was in bed, but she recognized me. Brigitte helped her along. Remember the article Omar wrote? And she nodded assuredly, the glint in her eye. Not to over-romanticize it, but she was still coquettish, sensuous, embodied. I let her eyes pierce right through as she had done for all those years with her paintings.
Huguette says, "You can be naughty sometimes, just like me." And then Huguette offers a Cheshire cat smile. Should I continue? Okay. Exterior. The neighborhood in Beirut is called Jemaise. We are in the street, and now it is daytime. Dr. O is smoking, chain smoking, and he lights one cigarette after another and another. There are beads of sweat hitting the ground, forming a pool of anxiety.
Why do we come anywhere? In her performance, Diaspora, the artist Otobong Nakanga noted that if we look to the word diaspora, it summons the root of the word, the double. The double is a seed that separates or fractures and which continues a life all to its own. It makes its way, sullying a path onwards.
All around there are people nervously, hurriedly moving, clustering around Dr. O. Dr. O remains unfazed.
I came here to lay with an Arab, to lay with Arabs, to lay alongside and within stained sheets without fear of censure or judgment. But at what expense? For language alone or accent does not define an aesthetic form. As a being here, you are but a mere novelty. By here I mean Beirut. That is until you choose to belong. And it was at that point when I chose to belong that they excised me. Excised me with knowing, and knowing from within. Fade to black.
So this is like an experimental film with flashbacks, with back and forth.
I don't like the word experimental because no one goes to see experimental films. It's like saying, like we're doing a talk about art history somewhere and no one goes.
But let's say that the movement, the movements in time, when encountering an artwork, this painting in the exhibition here at the Hall of Contemporary Art, and what you're offering, the back and forth, your trips to Beirut, 2010, and then going back, and then going to California, and then going back, and the encounter with you get. And what you choose to share is not art historical fact, it's emotion, and it's almost, it's almost all emotion.
I like to say feeling, because I recently have found out that there's, and I'm not being polemical, but in the medical sciences there has been a breakthrough that emotions are actually names of the medical industrial complex assigned to us. No two people feel the same. So it's not about emotion, it's about wanting you, the audience, to feel. Like here, this painting bisects. It was a painting that was about a decision to leave or go, and it bisects a groove of a space. And I want the film to give you that sense that you are also complicit, making a decision. And that's why playing with memory flashback, but also having to restage certain scenes, as expensive as I know as that might be, is important.
And it's not important to explain who Huguette Callan is and, all the art historical fact that you find on a wall text or a label.
I want to explain what she meant to me, because when I first encountered a Bribe de Cour painting from 1978, I felt that finally my experience of gender, not belonging to specific gender, has come to life because of its embodiment. So I studied her in an act to win the trust of the family and to be allowed to know her. And for me, I believe the most powerful way into art is through the feeling. And really, this is the point of this work, which is, and this show that you see here. I believe that we live in a society globally where we are not allowed to speak in the first. And I've spent 20 years as an author primarily negotiating the tension between the first and the third, which is the tension that we explore in what was so-called post-colonial theory, to be academic, but really all that it is I want the right to speak as me to allow someone else to enter. But as a society, politically, the framework requires that we speak as if we're speaking for the collective in the third, thus disembodying any connection to the artwork. And that's why I'm making this film, to say, no more. I want you to feel the work. I don't care if you know these people, you will feel them by the end of the film. And maybe it's not the best pitch. I'm sorry that it's not strategically aligned, but it will do something, I hope.
I mean, what's funny is that so far the three artists that have appeared are women who could be as old as your grandmother, who are fierce, who broke off with convention, and who made their own destiny. And yeah, so far, we'll see what the next scene will hold.
Maybe it's a reflection of my own life. We'll see. Is it possible, by any chance, to lower the light as much as possible just for this scene? Is it? I'll begin while you do it. It's okay.
So, scene 3, we are in a cafe inside, and it's an interior scene. We are in a cafe in the neighborhood known as Dalston in London, and it is daytime. You brought your own music again.
Of course. It's not mine, it's the artist's. I am here to meet someone who informed me that they look like Lawrence of Al-Arab. If it was a joke, I did not find it funny, by the way. Omar Sharif was my godfather. Can we get the light down? Like these ones, I know they can just be switched off because, thank you, beautiful. Don't worry. Omar Sharif was my godfather, only for it to be explained to me later that we were not to associate with him, for he had become an addict to the game of bridge. He had become violent, and godfathers in our culture were mere tokens of status for a Western audience.
Then we move to another interior at the Zilha Auditorium in the Whitechapel Gallery in London, and it is evening.
Audience members are streaming in. The venue is full. Dr. O, our protagonist, is antsy, scared, ignoring everyone around. The camera homes in on their claustrophobia. Electro-clash sounds, and the room is black. Lawrence Abu Hamdan begins the first iteration of the freedom of speech itself. Lawrence Abu Hamdan was born in Jordan, but he's not Jordanian. Lawrence Abu Hamdan has green eyes and is as white as snow, but he is not white. Lawrence Abu Hamdan's mum is from Yorkshire, but he sounds like a Cockney geezer often. He grew up in Yorkshire with his brother Shaqib, playing in indie music bands such as the one you just heard. They were called Klek Huddersfax. That was until Borat started to wear a mankini and he felt that his look had been appropriated. That's the truth, actually. Borat ended Lawrence Abu Hamdan's music career. He had also developed nodules on his vocal cords. Lawrence Abu Hamdan chooses to identify as Arab. And I asked him why. He informed me that he liked to be part of a cultural ideology, something that related to shared experience as opposed to being reduced to ethnicity or a perceived site of origin. I ponder whether he is merely expressing his born right of taqiyya, a divine right to lie. With him, over the course of 15 years, I've seen him change. I've grown to love him through his mind, through his commitment to making visible that which exists in the interstices. That's like me trying to stop it and doesn't. Okay, anyway, you can bring your lights back up. I'll stop this music, but this is Lawrence.
So you're not supposed to curse during a pitch, but so I get the music from his band, but what's the other music? It sounded like a...
It's actually a really beautiful thing. It's something you may have heard a lot in movies, Adagio in G minor. It's like...
It's cheesy.
It's cheesy, but it makes me really sad because I curated his first survey exhibition recently, and one of the works that we commissioned tied actually to this work, Air Conditioning, which you showed in the Berlin Biennial, which you co-curated. And she's quite famous, this person. Like, she can get you in Berlin Biennials, Hamburg Triennale, lots of stuff, Thank God I'm fabulous. And he was revealing a project which was about aural warfare, how drones affect the kind of sensorium. And he had found out that this Adagio in G minor, which was actually destroyed in the Second World War, the original score, and was reconfigured, was used by Israeli researchers to play to people like as they sat, and they would intersperse at certain points the sound of drones or overhead airplane sounds to measure how it affected their heart rate. And through this research was revealed that that this kind of aural warfare of like being kind of having your airspace. We always say we all live under the same sky. That's not true. Some skies are filled with surveillance planes that make this din, like such as over Lebanon. And so he was trying to show this thing, and so we decided to take over this like corridor in Sharjah of all these kind of like little cutesy lamps. And to the Adagio, you'd find, they played this actually in Romeo and Juliet by Baz Luhrmann. There's a sample of this. And I thought people would really think, oh, how cheesy but cute, and sit down and listen to it. And then suddenly there's this airplane, this F-35 plane sound that jars you. But at the last minute, we were granted approval to use it. And so the work literally went, I don't know, I think it went into the bin. So when I decided I couldn't let go of it, so I started a podcast just so I could play that Adagio in G minor. And yeah, it's Tommaso Albinoni was the person who composed it originally.
So we are now talking about it. So now you're referring to an artist who's kind of your generation. He's male.
He's I think, maybe we're 2 years apart in age, yeah.
So he was born in Jordan, but he's not Jordanian. And London was the place where he learned art, and that basically England was the defining experience for him. Mm-hmm. And why is it important for you to point that he's an Arab, and it's out of a commitment to a cultural ideology?
Because what I want to express is that Arabness is a construction. It is entirely fiction. Just like, it's an act of critical fabulation. It's an act of, filling in the gaps of history. So a way to link certain moments in time, to express why certain movements occurred or solidarity, but it's also a market tool. But what's weird to me is that I would have thought that someone of my generation would be against being called an Arab artist, because everyone that I know, like for example, a fellow Egyptian from the same town as me, Asyut, Upper Egyptian, Bassem Magdi, lives in Basel. He will never, ever be called an Arab artist or be in a show that has Arab art in it, refuses. And yet Lawrence is very happy to be identified as such, even though, but I think it's partly because he is white as snow and has green eyes, and he is an embodiment of the contradiction of being a diaspora.
Yeah. The area where you work is also known as Arabia Felix. You know that?
Huh?
Yeah.
Arabia Felix.
That's that's the old Latin name for the Gulf and the Arabic Peninsula. I just thought it was funny to mention that. So, but how do you position yourself in this spectrum? You were born in Egypt, raised in Saudi Arabia.
I actually was born in Egypt, moved to Scotland at 3 months old, 7 years old, South Central Los Angeles, 11 years old, Western Saudi, 15 years old, Eastern Saudi, then Egypt, then refugee back to Scotland, asylum seeker. And
in all that...
And then I literally did the entire loop back over 20 years as an adult.
And in all that, you do not wish to endorse any cultural ideology or critical fabulation?
No, because I believe that Arabness died in 1973. Maybe you agree or you don't. 73 is a year that you like, I believe. But for me, what this book and what this show have tried to do, and what the text that I wrote in this book, which maybe I'll recite bits in the movie, I don't know, but it's very impressionistic, is that I believe that Arabness was created by Gamal Abdel Nasser to try and take over these countries after the end of colonialism, and language does not connect people. 838 million people call English their mother tongue. Are all 838 million people English in terms of cultural identification? Well, I am Scottish and I'm British. The only passport I have is a British one, but I identify as Scottish, but I also identify as an Angelino. I'm also half black, also. So, because my dad's dad is Sudanese. So, like, to reduce me to this, I find offensive, because you're assuming an ethnic proposition, which is not true, and you're stripping me of certain protection rights as well.
Yeah, but I mean, on the scale of like desired identifications, we're like, less than dogs. So, so politically, to be an Arab is a bit like having the plague or being cursed. And that is not something that attracts you.
No, but then I get very confused because my dear friend Michael Rakowitz did a performance in Sharjah Biennial last week where he's really claiming back the term Arab Jew. And we had a long conversation afterwards because he had met with the Iraqi Minister of Culture in London the next day and was talking about this term, which is a term that was also discussed with his friend and collaborator Ella Shohat, who was hugely inspirational for me as a film student. But I can't. I believe we either are very specific or we don't. You once told me that you were an Ottoman. I like that. But also you're missing one thing, and I'm worried that it's not coming through, is that I have grown to love him through his mind, through his commitment to making visible that which exists in the interstices. But what I'm trying to say here is that art is a process of being made through friendship and kinship, and that's what makes all these artists connected. but also sometimes being me, this curator, I don't want to be. 70 exhibitions, I did 14 exhibitions last year. With every exhibition I say I lose a friend. Because when you have to play these roles, you see people change, and sometimes if an artist doesn't say thank you, they might give you, I would rather someone say thank you and give me a hug than give me $1 million, literally, because if I don't feel appreciated, khalas, it's over. And that's what I'm trying to also express here, is that we need to understand that making these worlds is not easy, and through them a lot of questions appear, but those questions or those positions, I suppose, don't necessarily equate solidarity, which I don't like that word, because it assumes that we are of the same political, social disposition, and I don't think kinship and friendship are the same.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I mean, you know, you are a troublemaker in the sense that you like to turn words around or look what's under them, and notions as well. Of course, curating 14 exhibitions in 1 year is exhausting and debilitating. I never see a contradiction between my lives and between producing a film and making an exhibition. And I repeat it very often. To me, it's an invitation to dream and journey. I don't know about feeling, but dream and journey. The difference is that an exhibition is in one place for a very short time, and you can always watch a film again. The other difference is that when you watch a film, you sit in a theater, so you are physically immobile, and the journey has been edited by someone. In an exhibition, you are mobile, and you're the editor of that journey. You can choose to go and come back, whichever itinerary there is. Yeah, I don't think I'm friends with a lot of the artists that I've curated. I think that is an emotional engagement that is exhausting. But I think we're coming close to how you see curating as a practice. And the question that you said is at the heart of the film. What kind of meanings does curatorial practice produce, or exhibitions? What kind of meanings? Should we move to the fourth scene?
This is a very privileged image, in that it's not available anywhere else. While we're here, I just want to...
The beautiful Lebanese mountains.
Do a little bit of disjarring. So this was my great aunt, Shadia. Do you hear any of my voice in her? Because one of the things that I was thinking is having her voice, an Egyptian, overlaid into the mountains of Lebanon to create these disjunctures, right?
Well, there's a raspiness that's...
Raspy. I'll sing later. Scene 4, for today anyway. Exterior Ras El Mountains, Lebanon day. Dr. O weaves through mountainous landscapes surrounded by the majesty of life-size sculptures by the late Salwa Rawda Shu'air. Dr. O stops and perches on a bench accompanied by Carla Shamas. Thank you, Carla Shamas, who also helped make this exhibition in many ways. And Salwa's daughter, Hala, who also helped make this exhibition, as well as her husband, Omar, who also helped make this exhibition. Thank you for trusting Salwa's work with us. Huddled together, the four of them gaze at the landscape in silence. top of the mountain, that is where we literally are. Ras al-Matin means top of the mountain. The days here have been quiet, but filled with the hushed murmurs from the ghosts of the past. The ghosts of Salwa Rawda Shu'air, whose works you can see there. Knowing more has thrust me into a very melancholic state. Knowing the specifics of Hala Shu'air's life, that is, indeed of Salwa's. Details too private to share, even if they are all in the public domain. We sat discussing the specificity of wounds, not yet sutured. So I feel like this is a fragment, maybe.
It is a fragment. You deliberately do not wish to address the wounds.
I think I'm too scared, because what I found out was that so many of the artists that I admired made decisions that I didn't respect. Like leaving, not in this case, well, choosing art over family, choosing to live in war, risking one's life to continue to make art. I just don't agree with it.
Salwa was born in the 1920s or the 1930s.
1915.
1915. She convinced a conservative family to let her go to Paris to study art. She fought her way. And I cannot imagine her not pursuing art. I think she was married and became a mother because of social convention. But her passion, like what kept her alive, was her art.
But she was also very poor, and it's one of the things that really, really disgusts me about how we talk and speak of women artists of this period, is that they were bourgeois. People say that Salwa Rawda Shu'air went to the American University of Beirut just like, but she didn't. She went to study biology, microbiology actually, and that's why you see in her later work these forms. She was actually a librarian at the AUB, in order to take night classes and to listen in to classes. And so, this was her dream. This was her dream. This is a campus where her sculptures, which she worked on a table half this size, and never could she make what she wanted to make. So her daughter, and I've only shown you little snippets of it, has committed her life partially to realizing these forms, an artist herself. And my heart is broken because there's this assumption, because now, this is a woman that didn't sell an artwork till the age of 46 years of age, I believe, or 42, it's one of those two. I watched a television program with her daughter, when she was in her 70s, that was called The End of Life, or that's a literal translation, but really it meant later, creative people in later life. And the interviewer, this man, was saying, so why are you still making art as a woman? You know, making your sculptures? She said, well, because I want to. And he said, but aren't you tired? Aren't you exhausted? Don't you want to do something else? And she said, no. She's like, I can't stay up till 2, 3 in the morning anymore, but no, I am doing it. But in that, there is a pain, because we have not progressed so much from then. My parents have no idea what I do. They don't understand. In fact, They disowned me for 4 years, mother 6 years, for the fact that I didn't try and become a medical doctor. And Professor Doctor, even when I was teaching at Oxford, it meant Jack to them. This context, how do we evolve it together, is what I wanted to ask. And in that quiet moment on the hilltop, we're dreaming and gazing. Is that okay?
It's great. Are you going to develop this or tell us more about this Dr. O character? Who is he?
They.
They.
Do you want to put on some gloves?
To play the curator?
No, we're
Or is this a sacred part of the
conservator.
conservator? So Dr. O, will we find out who he is?
I mean, the truth of the matter is that I believe that what I was trying to say earlier is that we don't know who that we are not allowed to speak until really when we die, unless you create an avatar. So the idea was to create an avatar who could speak in the first person, and then I would speak in the third. So in this scene, there's not much to it beyond it was quite an exceptional moment. Do you want to read scene 5?
You're directing me and I'm supposed to be the expert. Okay.
Well, the thing is, I'm giving you an experience and in the hope that you will. She literally can commission me. She has the budget, She's, Arte will give me the money. Inshallah, ya Rabb. I hope I don't lose my career because of being so candid.
So we are in an industrial area in Sharjah, and it's a scene, in an interior scene. We can see a minibus screeching to stop in front of a warehouse. Dr. O exits from that bus or the building with 2 tall men. Oh.
So this is what I was wearing on that day. This is a real scene. It happened, and it was filmed. So before the show, here. The days are closing in on us. The exhibition in Hamburg is already being built. But last night a spectre came to me that kept me up all night. It was the flying angel of Ibrahim Mas'ouda, a figure that we assume was painted in the early 1950s before he and his life were to disappear from this earth, or from what we understand as public record. A bruised and burnished brown frame is being unpackaged, much like I'm unpackaging this beautiful book, which is available until 8 p.m. in the shop tonight, and you'll be able to get it signed or dedicated to your loved ones at the special price of only 35 euros, which you will find nowhere else in the world. But for an angel, one that held within it all the myths, the tale of this piece and its accession into the collection is not a traditional one. The story goes that Mas'ouda, a co-founder of the Art and Liberty Group, a pioneering figure in the Egyptian art scene who also happened to be an Egyptian Jew, was forced to flee. He left his inventory up to that point with his friend, artist and Art and Liberty member, Kemal Youssef, who held on to it for decades. Kemal Youssef's sculptures you can see in the pink room, which is we call the salon. From Cairo, these works traveled to Pennsylvania, USA for nearly 50 years. And when Kemal Yusuf, near the end of his life, was to have his first solo exhibition mounted at the Sharjah Art Foundation, it is documented that Kemal asked if the foundation would acquire Ibrahim's work, put it on display. And so here it is outside. A marker of friendship. A marker, not of being Arab or Egyptian. It's a marker of kinship that transcends race, religion, or skin color. What does it mean to care for each other's legacy? Is the question that this makes me think of. And I can't find the other image, but it's there. It's there. And I chose in that last minute to put it, or I begged, shall we say, the graphic designers if we could have it, the top of this amorphous, non-gender specific angel, circa early 1950s. A piece that has only been exhibited to my knowledge maybe once, maybe twice. And like so many pieces of art that I work towards revealing, their stories, they remain invisible to the world. And why should it be such? Why? It will come. So, I know that before you give me feedback, I think we need I would like proper feedback from you and the audience, because it's just necessary. And see, oh God, these are real conservator gods. And I'm going to tell you all that there was an incredible montage scene, choreographed and scripted a la totally Chris Marker style film. Gorgeous. Just gorgeous. But to do that would be overwhelming, right? Do we agree? So we agree. Please tell me you agree.
I agree.
So it was to end with this soundtrack. And so let's just imagine that you have been with me through the 5 scenes and not the 6 scenes. Because we didn't experience the 6th scene, although my lucky number is 6. But it was meant to play out with this, which is a very melancholic, but also very alive piece of an operatic score. But can we not just breathe for 1 minute?
Breathing is very good. And do you want total darkness for your montage?
We're not doing the montage.
Yes, we are.
No, we cannot. We don't have... Kif بدنا نعمل المونتاج.
What time is it?
7:05.
I think we should do.
You have to ask the audience if they want it.
Yes.
I played this now so we wouldn't do the montage.
It was meant to play with the montage.
Oui. بس أقل من هيك. Okay, fine. No,
And you make the photo after the montage.
I know, but I'm just turning it on. God. Okay, so we're doing a montage. So the 6th scene is the whole film, the entire script. So what I wanted to do is zoom in and zoom out. And then you can all leave, and Professor Doctor, or you're not Doctor, sorry, but Professor, will aid me with the notes to make this film. So I think we need just a little bit less light. It doesn't have to be dark, but just a bit less light so people can see the screen, because it's very... وين التكست شالوه؟ موجود. Final scene. How they see us will mean nothing tomorrow. We begin this scene with a simple form. We might call it late afternoon. Here, a ball of fire whirs and swirls across a colorful topography by Ital Adnan. المزيكا مش عم بتشتغل منيح. Adnan becomes so important in the intervening years since this image is produced, her use of color so revered that she became exalted beyond any fathomable belief, all throughout her 80s through to her death at age 96. And this very painting, its oh so masterful use of color, currently sits here on view in the Hamburger Kunsthalle. Some say they think Adnan's work is as good as that of The Snail by Matisse from 1953. Their use of color is synonymous. But who did it best? Does it matter to you? Museum directors for 20 years or more have come to me to discuss the emerging scene in what they call the Arab world, so intrigued that they are by the franchising of brands and logos. But the question is, why? You say that you are enticed with and by our present, all of a sudden. But perhaps they simply want us to ask this question: who wore it better? You obsess over architecture as if it is emblematic of progress. But really, all you want to ask is, who wore it best? Rather, you elide the question that matters most. Who wore it the right way around? Your Louvre, filled with looted objects, draws so many crowds that you have to limit capacity. In ours, everything is acquired with state funds. But you like the binary, the dichotomy, to split things in two, don't you? So you get all too excited to see yet another maquette, one that we have been looking at for what feels like a lifetime. Who will wear it best? And it says that the following question is there, but no one can see it. Who will bear the bruise? Who will bear the brunt of this bruise? The Orientalist paintings of us by flaneurs. Here, the women of Algiers. Is this the return that you wish to send us back to? Is it through your eyes that we shall come to comprehend the gradation of our culture, of our skin tone, of our trails? Must we continue to return to Said's Orientalism, conjuring the snake charmer? Jean-Luc Godard? David Bowie, Life on Mars. Because it feels like we're on Mars when we talk about this stuff. You anointed us the Arab tale tellers, the Bedouins. But we are all so much more than meets the eye, literally. Al-Hazan, the polymath, also known as Ibn al-Haytham, built the first camera obscura, a pinhole camera, The foundations are sketched in his Book of Optics offered between 1012 to 1021 in Cairo. He also revealed the darkroom to us all, and with it all the connotations that this word evokes. And so the ocular, sight and as we know it, was made possible by someone not like you, but I do not see you constantly seeking to demystify or crush him down to a reducible, digestible piece of didactic material. Or is it that no one cares any longer? Because such recent histories are already forgotten. I have always had trouble with the word antiquity. Antiquated, now a pejorative term. But in whatever antiquity you wish to reference, you must acknowledge that those of my tone and tenor, in Egypt and the Sudan, gave us all a form of language, an alphabet, and managed well to conserve and preserve history for centuries, whether with these gloves or not. And with modest means, Egyptians built what is still the largest museum in Africa, Africa being the second largest and most densely populated continent on Earth after Asia. The question of axes here is like really driving me nuts. How this dandy place, for the longest time, such great memories, allowed Egyptians, Africans, and locals of all kinds in for free, but foreigners had to pay. But those would scream in protest of the inequity, even though their museums hold our history without sanction or authorization. Our history continues to live in wings amidst concrete jungles emblazoned with names such as this. I don't even, will not give it credence, as those names have partially been removed. The names of what we have recently woken up to realize are the names of murderers. Meanwhile, in other corners of the globe, entertainment companies conspire to create covert deals to create overpriced experiences, franchising our culture to what end? Is this intended as a mockery? Or are they proffering another claim, one that posits images of the Egyptian Museum during the revolution of 2011 as a means to argue that we can no longer care for our own history anymore once again? That we were too busy celebrating fake wins. Using our image to distract us, they posit and present it back to us. Meanwhile, artists of the diaspora sought to capitalize on our pain. This is a work called Arab Spring that was at Art Basel Unlimited. It brought me and a fellow Egyptian artist to tears. Cheers. Is it that people would rather we kept to the streets? You see, in 2011 and 12 and 13, newspaper headlines presented images such as this that spoke to our pioneering use of political graffiti, as if we had just discovered aesthetic tenets for the first time. They presented us with pictures of saturated walls, always a figure in the foreground that exists somehow in contradiction, such as this gentleman carrying, is that a bucket or a barrel over his head? Or this woman on the cell phone, weighted, perhaps laden. Or this woman perhaps masquerading. Were they excited to see our martyrs on walls? Or was the news media eager to make clowns of us all? As they sat in the background, others were developing 3D printed technologies, revealing how damage control could be best performed. Today, this is Tahrir Square. There are no traces of then. It was all but an illusion. Just like Ibrahim Mas'oud's angel, whose maker disappeared from earth without any known record. The text here is meant to say, this film isn't over yet. And we spiral backwards, again, the city where I was born, offering our share of the impoverished in images that circulate and contour the ocular arena. From here to there to nowhere. People go back to the streets. We're in Beirut now. Our neighbors, who you proclaim, are the same as us. But the media has lost all interest. These are not folks that they know, although they like sloganeering signs. We all sigh as we fall backwards. And although some profess this time the revolution will be deeper and longer, it always ends up like this. Neatly framed trauma hits Interpol. This was the image that circulated after the Beirut blast in the summer. Silence. Surely, I can't leave you to exit an exhibition of Etel Adnan, inspired by Etel's work in the heart of another country, or in the heart of another country, without ending with her words. Eternity is non-evident. There is this endless rotation of the sun in the sky, the stillness outside, and the storm within. At least a river is always flowing in some part of the country. Winds, always gathering speed, shatter the order of things. We return home in tears. Black Mirror is always watching you. And that's the movie. So what do we think? It's a mess, right? It's just a mess. It's a mess. I saw so many of you bored. I mean, you don't have to lie, but you know.
But it was a kind boredom.
Yeah.
They stayed.
No, I'm so grateful. But I mean, this is about too many things.
Obviously. But you're often associated with excess, no?
But not, the ones of S, D, and rock and roll. Maybe rock and roll.
No, what I'm saying is that you start with a lot and then you refine and you fine-tune. I don't know if people want to ask you questions.
Or ask you questions about what you think, and if you're going to commission me to be on ArteFrance. Do I have to film part of it in France, or do I have to
The money is so little.
I can match fund. How much? 60,000?
50.
50, okay. I can get you 50 match.
Okay. Do you have questions for Omar?
I'm really serious, by the way. You do realize that I am pitching to commissioning editor Rasha Salti, who is literally the producer of Jean-Luc Godard. Do you understand? I'm trying to get this person on my side. People don't realize how, kind of crazy famous you are, and it kind of freaks me out.
I'm really not crazy famous, and doesn't matter. What matters is that you figure out this mess of a film before you come back to me.
Okay.
And let's see how people react.
But could someone, I beg you, just one person, give me some help with my structure, something, anything, please, please. When Nabi, Dirk, come on.
I think Dirk was so.
First of all, thank you so much for, I mean, now I learned this was a lecture performance or performance lecture. Thank you. I actually loved every word of you. I liked very much how you approached a very complex question. I mean, the myth of Arab art is one thing. I still wonder a little bit why you called it The Beginning in the title. Maybe you have an answer to that.
I'll begin with my version of the story. A year ago, he called me, he needed 5 minutes on the phone. And it was 1 hour and 45. And he's telling me about a film he wants to make. And he was in distress. I couldn't interrupt. But I was charmed. There was stories, energy, colors, forms, change of tone, change of voice, avatars, characters. We were traveling from the 1970s to the 2000s to Los Angeles, to Saudi Arabia, I was charmed. And I said, what I usually say is, write it all up, put it in a dossier, this is what I need, and yes, I will read it, yes, I'm interested. Hung up. This was basically right as we were thinking, like preparing to define plans for the Triennale. And then, fast forward to a few months ago or a few weeks ago, he called and he said, let's do this talk. And I really want to address the myths of Arab art. We did a few back and forths. Voice notes, very long WhatsApp messages. He even started a Google sheet. And
Really
something
long.
was not working. Something was too obvious, didactic. And then I remembered the phone call a year ago, and I thought that instead of engaging with this myth, I proposed that we perform what will actually happen in the future. He will pitch a film, and I will tell him what I think of it. But it's in the here and now, it's kind of a rehearsal, and I think it avoids us speaking in definitive truths, but it opens the space for questions. And I think it also, which film does, it allows you to define Arab art or to decide what you want to do with Etel Adnan and what you want to do with Salwa Rauda Sher, and to even dream of these spaces, that the geographies that he evoked using opera and whatever, and David Bowie. That's my version.
But there was even Prince of Egypt.
And the Prince of Egypt.
Well, I think also the beginning is because I'm trying to understand from, like, let's we pray. Okay, no. I need to get it onto the speaker. It's not gonna be any issues with Whitney. She's very, very friends of mine. Wait, how do I do this? This is. How do I get it onto? Fahmt. Hang. It's gonna come into the sound system somehow, inshallah. But it sounds worse there. Because where do we begin a story? Like 6.5 years, Dirk. 6.5 years, it's emotional, right? 6.5 years, and this is the end. I'm not being, I am a dork, okay, I'm a dork, sorry. 6.5 years, I've been trying to understand what is the question that you want to ask me to put in there. And I go back to music, I go back to my friends, I go back to my colleagues, I go back to everyone, and I can't. You're asking the impossible question, right? The question that fundamentally destabilizes everything of one's culture and being. And so that's why it's the beginning, because an exhibition is always a beginning, a possible beginning. And oh no, I am not the Prince of Egypt. I'm no prince. But this is a better song. I think we should listen to this together. This is the colonial of Aladdin. Alauddin. Ali Baba. But I love this song so much, and I grew up singing it. But I'm not even being facetious, because this mic is not for singing. I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid. Tell me, princess, now when did you last let your heart decide a whole new world? And that is how I entered my own culture. Get it?
You can sing.
No, but that is how I entered my own culture. So this thing about like East, West, they look at the color, it's also BS to a degree, because, you know, I love People Bryson. I mean, that voice, oof. And I mean, yes, it's a really strange song for a kid's film because it's very suggestive, the magic carpet ride, but it's just so great, you know. And Whitney and I can't. The Prince of Egypt is just, it's bad because both those women, they are just too amazing to situate myself near them. The beginning equals the end. But I can take one song request last. A song request.
You have song requests.
Oh, and did you notice?
Comments, questions. Nobody asked him
Dirk,
about this.
This is for you. As per my last email.
Can you say it with a more British accent?
As per my last email, sir, that's the construction of an identity. But actually, before, like, I have to say, like, I just really, really loved doing this project, and I love that so many of you were part of it, are here, and it's like, it's a huge part of me, and I'm so grateful to you for having it here, but also allowing all that, putting in all that crazy effort. I'm also just so grateful that I work for an organization that, you know, is a government agency that believes in supporting artists and also people to tell stories. It's not, you know, Dirk, you were at the Sharjah Biennale. There's a lot of dissidence there, there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of complex questions being asked, and I feel privileged, but I'm also terrified because I don't know how I'm going to make this film, and I have to make it, and I also really don't know what to do about my singing career either, which is like totally in the toilet.
Well, if I think you could sing, like, seriously.
I tried. Baba said no.
If I plan weddings, will you be the wedding singer?
Yes, but everything has to, you have to pay for free vocal coaching lessons, that's all. You don't pay me, just the vocal coaching. The rest is free, and costumes free too.
Anybody has a question for this very serious curator?
Well, they have half an hour to buy the catalog if they haven't, to get it dedicated and signed, or shop other things in the shop, because there are other delicious books that are only here for the time. Oh, and then, no.
A piece of gold.
No, this is actually not, this is not for any of you, sorry. I was gonna...
Can you display it properly then?
No, no.
Okay.
Rasha, I wanted to thank you for doing the last event with me. And so, Dirk, in your introduction, you mentioned that my memoir I chose to make it a gold block, so it looked like a bar gold, and I wanted it to be published by these dudes because
Fiden.
yeah, because of I wanted to sit next to Gombrich, but it is being marketed because Gombrich, you know, Story of Art has one woman and no people of color except as so I'm really proud of this, and this is the first advance, and I want to give it to you as a thank you for being on, for closing this event for me, but also for allowing me to walk in your shoes. And please, if you would commission my film, I would really appreciate your 50,000 euros investment.
It's a very public bribe, but thank you for the book.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for your kind attention.
This is really, really like super precious, and if I sign it, it's like crazy. Like this is like internet_art, yeah?
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you.
Thank you.